Hello, guys. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. This last week has been super hectic on my end, so this week's episode is kind of all over the place. I do think we touched upon some very interesting cases today, and I'm excited for you guys to listen to them. Another thing is that we did change our technical setup of how we record the podcast, and I think Glenn's audio levels have improved, and the quality of his audio is way better. Now, my audio got a little bit choppy because I didn't correct my own settings. So I know the mistake and I will correct it by next week. So that's all I wanted to add, and I hope everyone will enjoy this week's episode. And we're back online, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Solvable Mysteries podcast. My name is Eurus, and this week I'm joined by Glenn Highcove. As every week, we're here to talk about some true crime, some cases that we would like to bring to our audience attention, and there are some technical changes on our show. We're no longer using Skype, we're using Zoom, and I don't know, we're gonna see if there's if this is better or not. Dude, uh what's up? Are you excited?
Yeah, I am. This is like one of those cases where it's so new. It was kind of hard to get information, but there was a lot of good coverage. So I'm pretty interested. And it's funny because we're back to Australia again. For some reason, we keep on like Australia is like the Florida of I guess the rest of the world or something. I don't know. We've been there a lot for some reason. Maybe it's not very fair to them, but at least this time it's an interesting part of the world. So yeah, it should be very interesting.
I mean, I'm pretty sure our Australian audience don't mind this at all, man. That we're, talking about cases from their country. And yeah, this week was very weird. A really quick how should I put it? A really quick note before we roll is that I had like a really busy week. Glenn had like a really busy week, and we were researching separate cases at the same time. The main case that we want to talk about today is a case that Glenn was preparing and from Australia. And then on the second part of the show, I would definitely like to talk a little bit about the case that I've picked out. Right, and that case we're gonna be returning to next week because that case is bonkers. Okay, that's a crazy case. We definitely want to talk about it even more. But dude, since you have more information about the this week's case that you've prepared, I'm handing it over to you, and I'm gonna be more of a reactionary a person on this case, but I definitely am aware of what happened, and I have the assets that you have asked me to get.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, this thing first came to my attention. I want to say just last week, and it already sounded pretty wacky. But the more I dug into it, and I guess became aware of it, versus maybe what everybody else in that part of Australia had already seen a lot of coverage about, the more interesting it seemed to me because I kind of have a fringe theory about it that maybe there's a possibility that there's some other some other unexplained disappearances and or murders involved. Now I haven't seen that alleged anywhere. That's all my own personal little opinion and conclusion I kind of jumped to. So you know, just take that for what it's worth. But it's interesting. So okay, just to hit rewind on the whole case. Um, there's this part of Australia. It's like a big like national park. It's really famous, but it's also like a very um, like remote and undeveloped area. So I think it's called Wonnangatta Valley or Wonnangatta Station. I guess was the original name of the area, sort of in antiquity or colonial days. Anyway, it's the kind of place where you can really get away from it all, and you can you need to have like a really robust 4x4 kind of vehicle, like an all-wheel drive, like Land Rover, can get in the mud and go through shallow rivers kind of vehicle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So real kind of outdoorsy. Do the trip out into the woods. But when you do it, I guess it's really beautiful. Now, I'll admit that the some parts of the Australian wilderness kind of scare me. Apparently, they have some plants in some parts of Australia that can actually like give you chemical burns. Uh,
Jeez.
that are yeah, it's crazy when you read about it. There's some plants that can burn you so badly that you want to kill yourself.
Oh my
No
god.
joke. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, the pain never goes away. It just always feels like someone's burning you. Apparently, it drives. It's crazy to think there's something like that you could just rub against the wrong way. I don't know if that area has that. Just thought it was interesting little trivia.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nah, for real. That's crazy. Never heard about that.
Okay, so this place already had a reputation. I really don't. I kind of resent that they injected into the story. I guess it's just part of the place's lore. Was that there was this murder or this double homicide that happened that maybe seems to be it could have been related to some personal beef, could have been related to some sort of business or business dispute. Um, so the place was already infamous, and then there's been a series of people that have disappeared over the years, especially recent years, and or turned up dead. But what was interesting and what seemed to have piqued attention going into the summer was that there were these two elderly people who had I mean, it was like this big scandalous thing in a way, and not to poke fun at it, but there were these two senior citizens. They're in their
70s. Yeah. I think 70s. Yeah.
I mean, they look like they're in their 70s, um, and they're not married to each other. Okay, so big deal. But then the one guy is married to some other lady who wasn't involved in this and who apparently knew about this long-term relationship that he had with this other lady who's not married. And this other lady is like a pillar of her community. Like she'd been awarded like something for her country women's association that she's I think we have some information about it. But
Yeah. Dude, really quickly, because we're looking at them on the assets. So for everyone who's watching this on the YouTube, Glenn is referring to Mr. Carol Clay and Miss Russell Hill. I'm not really sure, man, but the thing is that we can see them on the screen, and yeah,
I think Russell's the guy. And I
uh,
think Carol's the lady. So yeah, I mean she had all this she was really respected in her community. Apparently she'd done a lot of like I guess charity work and things like that, and work for her organization. So like an organization I think that does good deeds across the community. So anyway, it's like this really respectable lady, and then this guy who um I don't know, it's interesting. He kind of seems to have been on a verge of some kind of I mean, like second midlife crisis point, where somehow it was said that he like suddenly sold a bunch of like other stuff and bought this like four-wheel drive vehicle, was out driving around. And I mean, look at him, he's out like he's in his 70s and he's doing like this secret like 10-day camping trip or something out in the woods where nobody can find them.
living life.
Yeah, living life for sure. I mean, and like right to the end, right? And like I mean, this is at the age where people usually worry about medical emergencies, and he's going where like you probably don't get cell phone reception.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he's going out to like where you would have to depend on someone else for help.
yes,
So that's interesting that was like a big part of their life. Okay, so what happens is they go on this trip, and he's even. I mean, I personally find this interesting because I'm into like my radio scanning and like amateur radio stuff. I've never gotten a license, but I should probably do it someday. Um, the guy actually had like a HF radio, so like an amateur like a ham radio, that he signaled like when he got to his spot,
All right.
to his camping spot. And I think he, like, it seems like he's probably a, like a guy's guy who's got a lot of friends and stuff. He does his hobbies, and people keep track of each other to make
Man.
sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, for interrupting, but I just wanted to quickly jump on the Google Earth screen because I do have the locations for everyone who's, just kind of interested in this. So, apparently, this dude, Russell, picked up Carol from a little city or a little town right next to Melbourne, a little bit to the east of Melbourne called Pakenham, and they drove. I'm not really sure how much, but it seems like a good chunk of road to the campsite in Wonnangatta station right here. And I think he did signal his radio once he got to the Wonnangatta station, right?
Yep, that's right. So there's a specific friend that he actually reached out to. That was like the last person to 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 speak to him, I guess. Anyway, they said it was interesting. Said it was like a pretty protective sort of bloke. That's an interesting description. So I wonder if that's the nice way of saying the guy could get aggro when he needed to. But yeah, he traded this like what they describe as a puddle jumper. I don't know what that means in Aussie slang, but I assume maybe like a little compact car or something. And then for a shiny new 4-wheel drive, and it has like all this camping stuff and a trailer. Like we'll see it later, the scene. It's a nice piece of equipment. It's just it's a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I guess yeah, I gotta respect it a lot more than someone that goes and gambles or grandkids' inheritance away at the casino. Um, I'm all for outdoor active life
Of course.
for sure. So it's interesting. So what happens is they go and they suddenly disappear, like they're never heard from again after what is this, March 20th. And it's interesting because, you know, he get checked in saying he's at Wonnangatta Valley in the Victorian Alps. It's the last time anyone ever hears from him. And then the next day, his fire damaged Toyota Land Cruiser and a lot of other burned up stuff, and kind of a disturbing scene of like chopped up deer parts. And it kind of looks like someone intentionally destroyed a lot of their stuff and vandalized their stuff. But then on the other hand, his stuff is found inside, like I think his wallet and some of the other personal belongings are found locked inside the car. And there was one of the people that was quoted as saying that was unusual because it's not the kind of place where you lock your car for some reason. I don't know why that is, but it's like it's just you probably would, if you need your car, you need it in a hurry, so you don't need to mess around with like locking stuff. So the whole thing was weird. It's not the normal thing. But then on the other hand, there is some level of like malevolent activity in the area. So just like any kind of national park or wilderness area, there's poachers. There's something they call spotlighters, which I think is a form of poaching where you shine a spotlight and kind of, you know, just the apocryphal deer stuck in the headlights moment,
Oh, yeah.
and then you blast it. That's generally illegal hunting in a lot of countries, including
That's
mine.
cheating, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it's not sporting. It's not a challenge. I mean, which isn't to say sometimes it might not be necessary when the animal's a pest animal. But yes, certainly in that place it's not legal. So the idea was that there's some amount of dangerous people. There's even this guy that before they identified a new suspect. There was this guy called the Button Man that runs around the hills, and I guess the guy makes buttons out of old antlers that he hunts. And but the guy's nice, but I guess he's gotten aggro with people that have not been the right kind of camper or have been done something to I guess
The button
arouse
man. The button man
the Button Man. Yeah,
sounds like something from a Halloween flick.
it does, right? Yeah. So there's like this whole. So that was like the hook. That was so before now, going into and even coming out of the summer. When you look at YouTube stories about this area of Australia, I mean, it's all they can talk about, and not just videos. I mean, articles, good articles, New York Times articles. Um, there was a local paper that did a good job. There's a lot of other media, and there's a 60 minutes episode, this Australian 60 minutes, which is, I guess just what you would expect I don't know what you think. Good things or bad things about 60 Minutes, but it's definitely a very detailed, but very like kind of manipulative, nosy look at the situation. It's kind of embarrassing because they're like, well, did his wife know? And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know if she wants to talk about that or wanted that out there, but I guess you're going to go there, right? Australian 60 Minutes. So they do. And it's that kind of thing. But it's kind of them trying to make like a big mountain out of like not a lot of information. But, what happens is in the past, I would say, 10 days or so, there's been a new suspect that apparently, I mean, there's a lot of kind of back and forth and a lot of like not consistent. There's not a good source of statement other than I guess an official press conference, but there's kind of things saying that maybe they were watching the suspect a while, in part because he had a very distinct vehicle and camper, and as we'll see, I guess this guy kind of had a habit of being in the area too.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a really damning piece of evidence even around the color you see right there. Because and if you were to look at that color, what color is that to you?
Okay,
Your
so
eyes.
just real quickly, for everyone who's listening to this, do not,
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's,
yeah,
dude, we have to like explain
right.
what we're talking about.
Sorry, podcasters.
Yeah, sorry guys. We're looking at a Nissan Jeep vehicle that seems to be now in like, what is this, like beige color? How do you call this color?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a beige color exactly, and that was not the color it was very recently. And in fact, there was a trailer attached to it that they're looking for now, that they say was sold, I think, in some sort of local marketplace. There's the trailer. Maybe some kind of online. The name of the company was not familiar. Maybe it was some kind of Australian equipment retailer, but whatever it was, for used equipment. Yeah. So this was a very distinctive setup they were looking for. It was the vehicle was originally blue, and then all of a sudden this guy, yeah,
Dude, sorry, because you know the story better than me, and I already have like some questions about the story. So my first question is, okay, so these two old people, they disappear. Their bodies are not found, from what I'm gathering,
right.
and there is no suspect. But now there is a suspect, and apparently the storyline why this new suspect, Greg Lynn, the dude that I've showed a little bit earlier on, this guy right here, Greg Lynn, who's an ex-pilot, and I think you're gonna definitely talk about it. The reason
Yeah.
I just wanted to say the reason why he's the suspect is because I think his Jeep, Nissan Jeep, was actually captured by CCTV, and apparently he was towing something somehow connected to it. I know you're gonna explain it shortly, but then also he changed the color of his Nissan Jeep from blue to beige just recently, so that's like covering his tracks right there a little bit, right?
I mean, it's almost it's covering it ridiculously. Like who makes their car beige?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to like, I don't know, bring your car to try to hide from the Taliban in Afghanistan, why would you make your color? What you know what I mean? Like, no one does that. No, no person. I mean, painting your car is expensive as well, right? So who spends thousands of dollars to potentially to make their color almost the dullest color imaginable? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like trying too hard to make your car like not rememberable or not look like how it looked a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, definitely. I don't.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'll just continue. So yeah, so that's what happens is, and that's what really piqued my interest. That's what blew my mind, was that all of a sudden this pilot guy, who's what, 57? Is that right?
I think.
Jetstar.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, I'll just single out some things that if you want to hear
He was
Glenn's.
55. He was 55. At least I'm reading an article.
Oh, back at the time.
I'm not really sure. Jetstar pilot Greg Lynn, 55, was charged with 2 counts of murder overnight and fronted court for the first time on Friday. So I think this is recent, and I think he's 55.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, the guy is is an actively working pilot. I guess that Jetstar airline is some local Australian carrier. Um, but I mean, the guy had some kind of accomplished, like I think he'd flown for a lot of different, or for other airlines, and someone who's probably flown a good chunk of his life. I couldn't find a lot of other background about him. Like I found out he was he's an avid outdoorsman and all-wheel drive 4x4 kind of guy, and he likes to hunt. I mean, there's a lot of people like to hunt, likes guns and hunting. Um, he had, I mean, he doesn't fit the profile of somebody who had like some kind of antisocial personality, the issue where they can't hold a job and they don't have a family and they have abusive, like all these warning signs, that are like, oh, of course that guy, right? Just like
Yeah.
poor button man running around in a bad mood when people leave trash around, making buttons. Oh, he's the asshole. But like this guy's some kind of like super respectable in theory member of the community. He's working. He's got probably, I would assume, a lucrative career if he's able to spend it on, luxury vehicles and things like that. Um, Whatever it is, it's a respectable career for sure.
Oh yeah.
So that's what just really blew my mind is how did this guy, who's also, I will point out, there's just a couple of things. Statistically, I think he's far less likely to kill somebody at that age, especially like a first time murder, right? I mean, he's not even like a hardened convict coming out of a 25 to life sentence, got off on parole. He's like the opposite of that. It's really weird. Now, the other thing I don't notice about him in all of his pictures, and maybe it's because he's taking a lot of cell phone pictures, which those lenses do spread out your face, but he's got a very wide masculine face. There's a theory that men that have really wide faces, this is like not really like controversial or anything. It's some kind of study of like how androgens, I guess, or whatever, affect different hormones affect the development of skeleton. So they say that men that have wide faces may have a higher testosterone rate or been exposed. They may actually be more dangerous. So other men might find them more threatening. So a guy with a big face like that might be setting off. I mean, he looks friendly and stuff. He looks like a cool guy to have a drink with, but he also looks like he might be able to kill you,
Yeah, I get that
right?
feeling. I'm looking at the guy. I'm definitely getting the feeling that this is like a cool dude in the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then also when it's time to put in work, like he's gonna like shoot you in
It's
the
gonna.
head. You know?
I think so. I mean, the guy. I mean, he does. He looks like he's rock. And then, by the way, somebody who was a pilot. And then the one thing I wondered, and I was really curious. If anybody knows, please drop it in the comments. I was trying to figure out if the guy was ex-military because like at least here in the States, and I'm sure in Australia too, a lot of ex-military pilots like go right into the airlines because the airlines love military pilots because they're like a proven commodity. You know what I mean? They've had flight training already. They've got nerves of steel. They've got probably good mental health.
Yeah.
Um, they're kind of the best of the best, right? It's like you got freaking honor students and AP students going right into your company. I mean, even just perfect performances out of people like that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's like a really big fall for somebody like this, and I was really curious. So one thing that turned up in this guy's past was, I mean, like once again, it seems like he might be an attractive person, and like have some kind of good social life. He had this. He's married right now. Now, we'll say in a little bit what his family said in a statement. I don't know if we have the exact statement, but I can give you the spirit of it. And it wasn't anything. It was surprising actually, but before we get to that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's worth mentioning. I mean, apparently he'd had an ex-wife before who was like a stewardess for like Qantas or something, and she would never. Yeah, I mean, she's an attractive lady,
Oh yeah, she looks.
and
Just for everyone who's
yeah,
listening to this, like in this photo that we have, his like ex-wife looks like she could have been a Hollywood actress. Like, dude.
she's got amazing hair. I mean, her hair was done really well there. I mean, yeah, it just looks like a very attractive person, and apparently she, after he broke, he like left her or something, and like left her for another woman. And I don't know if that's the person he's married to now or if he's had an active social life between then and now. But she like apparently killed herself in a way that was like not typical at all for how she lived. Like she was someone that was lived a pretty clean, like, non-alcohol, drug interacting life, let's say, and she killed herself, I think, with some kind of big overdose in
Jeez.
alcohol. Yeah, it was like some kind of like really ugh, awful. Apparently, she was just destroyed after he left her. So it's interesting. That once again, it's like the opposite of what we usually talk about, right? We usually talk about, well, we often mention people that have maybe had bad childhoods, and then like when they grow up, they have these really kind of dysfunctional or ter- terrific, not terrific, was it horrible, I guess, horrific is the word I'm looking for. Horrific. I try to make up a word, I think. Yeah, horrific relationships with other people where you're like, how could someone even live like that? And then meanwhile, this guy's got people killing themselves because they can't live with him. So it's kind of weird. So what would drive someone like this to potentially do this like weird random crime? And then I have to wonder then, it's like, well, if he's suspected of that, why wouldn't you not also suspect him of not only other things that happened in that same area in the same time frame that were along those lines, but also the things that other people are accused of doing illegally there? Like if he loves hunting so much, why does he care about, like, why is he going to pay for, I don't know if Australian hunting is the same as here. Hunting can be expensive, really expensive. I mean, it can be way out of reach even of the average, citizen, if it's a specific animal. If it's an animal that's like highly prized or protected and not really like a pest animal, like it can cost, you have to be someone wealthy to be able to afford it. So I have to wonder for him, I mean, who says he wasn't poaching? I'm not accusing him of poaching. I'm just saying what would keep somebody that was accused of killing two people and disappearing them from like not shooting as many deer as he wanted.
Yeah. No, I know. I think that's a good point. And dude, I just really quickly at this point of the podcast, you have sent me a few news articles, and maybe it's a good time to play one of them, just to see
Oh yeah.
what the news people said. So I have a few of them. I have this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. I have four. Do you know which one I should play now?
Why don't you start off with any of them in the background? I mean, they've all shown wonderful stuff. That the very last link that I sent you has a link right to when he's 4x4ing with his family, like by
Oh,
4x4.
shall I play the audio also?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna play the audio of this clip. So let's listen in. How about I just play it from the beginning, because our audience members will have a better time understanding. It's only a few minutes, so I'm just gonna play it.
Good evening. 9 News has obtained footage of the remote campsite in the high country where heavily armed officers swooped on 55-year-old Greg Lynn. The Jetstar pilot continues to be quizzed about the disappearance of Russell Hill and Carol Clay. Reid Butler has this exclusive report.
In deep, dense bushland, 9 News understands this is where heavily armed Special Operations Police swooped. They tracked the 55-year-old to this remote location north of Lacola after he left his Caroline Springs home. Students at a school camp nearby captured part of the massive police operation. The oval here used as a staging ground for officers.
I was so confused and so scared. Like, I was worried that someone was in the camp or something. Stressing out a lot.
Lynn's arrest, the most significant development yet in the biggest missing persons investigation Victoria has seen. It all unfolding just a few hours from where Russell Hill and Carol Clay vanished in March last year. Tonight, 9 News can reveal the suspect left his home after a fight with his wife. Police didn't want to pounce this early, but were forced to move in and make the arrest because they had concerns about Lynn's mental state.
I've only spoken to him once, so He seemed to be very nice.
9 News can also confirm the Jetstar pilot owned guns and enjoyed hunting. Firearms among the items seized during an AFP raid of his home. It's understood guns were also found in his vehicle. Social media videos tell a story of a family man who enjoyed the outdoors and camping with his kids and his Nissan Patrol four-wheel drive.
Hey, who's scared? Me. It's not even up to her ankles yet.
That vehicle would lead to his arrest. Police say it's the blue four-wheel drive that was spotted in the area at the time of the camper's disappearance. Detectives believe he painted it beige to avoid detection. Google Street View images from Lynn's home show the four-wheel drive had been blue in 2019, but it was beige last year. Neighbours say they noticed the change in colour around 12 months ago.
It was more like a greyish, bluish colour. Was in need of a spray paint because the paint was all faded and there was some like rust spots.
Lynn was arrested on Monday evening, but 48 hours later remains at Sale Police Station tonight being questioned. No charges have been laid and the wait continues for Russell and Carol's family.
We would love to be able to find the bodies. That would be just fantastic. But I feel if we had to make a choice between the two, having the person who's committed this so that they can't do it again is more important.
Reed's at Sale Police Station tonight. Reed, do we know why this is taking so long?
Well, Pete, I understand while Greg Lynn surrendered peacefully when police swarmed his remote campsite, when he was taken here to Sale Police Station, he initially refused to cooperate and answer questions from officers. That could be among several reasons why this is dragging on for so long. 48 hours now and still no charges, which is quite unusual. Police are also likely awaiting the forensic results of the four-wheel drive that has been seized as part of this investigation. But their official word tonight from Victoria Police is that no charges will be laid this evening. Pete, this has been an incredibly complex mystery so far, and it seems this arrest and the circumstances following it are much the same. Pete?
Reed Butler reporting. Greg Lynn's neighbours in Caroline Springs have expressed shock over his arrest. Security footage captured on Sunday shows the 55-year-old welcoming new residents to the area. They spoke to Neri Tai.
Last Sunday afternoon, Greg Lynn, wearing an akubra, dressed in shorts and hiking boots, casually strolls towards his neighbour.
He said, "I like your truck." And then I even offered this bloke a beer.
Leo is washing his car in his driveway when the 55-year-old stops by for a chat, even discussing CCTV cameras.
He said, "Hi, I'm the new neighbour." And he said, "Welcome to the neighbourhood."
But Leo says he got a shock when he turned on the TV last night.
And I'm like, geez, when I saw yesterday on the news, this dude is suspected for murder, I'm like, damn it, what the hell is this?
Greg Lynn appears a regular family man.
He looked, very laid back, like it looked like one of those blokes who just keep to himself.
A husband, a father, and someone who enjoys the great outdoors.
We talk about just a little bit about caravan. He said that he likes the camping.
The Jetstar pilot is married to a flight attendant. Along with their children, they lived at the Caroline Springs home for around 10 years.
They're really nice, yeah. They are very good neighbours.
My kids actually goes to pretty much the same school.
He was in the Air Force before becoming a pilot for a number of international airlines, including Jetstar. He's now been stood down. Jetstar has been advised by Victoria Police that one of its employees is under investigation for a serious crime. Lynn was also a long-time member of the International Shooting Club here in Port Melbourne. It's also been revealed he has an extensive gun collection. Those who know him say he enjoyed recreational shooting. Police have long said their suspect would be someone living a normal life.
The person that carried out this is probably just an ordinary member of the community who's operating in a normal job, but carrying this significant load.
Little did these Caroline Springs locals know this was the suspect living amongst them.
It's bloody scary, So to know that the bloke next door to you, it's a worry.
Neri Tai, 9 News.
Okay, the only thing I really got from this the most important thing is that, like, Greg Lynn's neighborhood is like the most diverse neighborhood I've seen in my life. You know what I mean? Like, there was like Asian people, African people, seemed like South Asian people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Australia is certainly a crossroads of the Pacific. They have a lot of different waves of immigration. They have sort of Australia's like I mean, it seems to me a very interesting place. They have a lot of similarities to America in some major ways.
Really recap what we just listened to, right? So this guy was apparently just living a regular life, you know, like there's the neighbor Leo, which I thought was a really cool neighbor, probably one of the coolest neighbors you could possibly have, right? He seemed like an ordinary guy. Greg welcomed me into the neighborhood and everything was fine. So, you know, this guy apparently can kill and then act as if, you know, yeah, I'm just living my regular life, nothing happened. So that's like a psychopath almost.
Yeah, that really does make me think of that. And, you know, I think I've mentioned this in the past. You know, people have psychopathic traits, and it doesn't make them necessarily a killer. And in fact, some jobs need somebody that has more psychopathic traits to keep them calm and even to help them do things that are very distasteful to the rest of us, like, you know, a surgeon does something that, you know, most humans don't want to do, right? But it takes an extremely intelligent person with a lot of self-control and expertise to do something that, you know, you couldn't pay a lot of people to do. Yet he's going to, you know, that person is going to be compensated for that kind of ability to withhold that human reaction. They're going to get compensated, you know, hundreds or thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars of income over their life. So it's, you know, there's a whole tangent, but yeah, I mean, my whole point is it's interesting to think like maybe that's what would make this person a good pilot, but also make them pretty fearless, because that's the fearlessness. Relative fearlessness is one of the psychopathic traits, personality traits. You know, as you see in the footage where he's driving his family through the stuff and he's kind of messing with them. Now I'll tell you what that reminded me of, that part. This is the part that reminds me a little bit of the Golden State Killer, where that was one of the stories about the Golden State Killer from his former fiance, was that he really seemed to get off on scaring her, like doing these stunts in the motorcycle out of nowhere, and kind of having a little bit of power trip over somebody. And that was where she kind of decided, you know, I don't think I need this dude. There was like a couple different things where it just wasn't any good. But this guy didn't seem to have as many, you know, like red flags that we're hearing about. I'll tell you the thing that I found was interesting was one of the news reports I listened to. The family statement was pretty. it was pretty neutral. It didn't really sound like they weren't like, oh, you know, we're gonna fight this, and hey, we did nothing, he did nothing. We were all innocent, and this, you know, is a travesty, and they're still out there, or someone else did this, or this is. No, none of this miscarriage of justice stuff. It was kind of like, you know, it was really ambiguous and not at all seeming to stand up. It looked like it was ready to like go the other direction if things went the wrong way on this case.
Flip on him? Or like the family was ready to flip?
Yeah, like they're gonna save what they've got left, because this guy, you know, if he did what he said he did, he was gonna turn into a very unpopular person, and they're gonna look very foolish, though not necessarily, if anything, that's their fault. You know, they just couldn't imagine. So this has happened before. I mean, there's been other serial killers that have either been unlikely or haven't done. No one would have ever thought that they did anything. And I'm not saying that this person's a serial killer. I'm saying that just because someone seems friendly and has all these people vouching for them doesn't mean that they don't have some kind of secret life where they're doing something illegal, you know, of any kind of like different, you know, like level, right? It doesn't have to be something as outrageous as this. It could be something more innocuous, right? But still, yeah, it's like the whole thing was really fascinating to me, and it is fascinating to me. I think it's like, it seems like it's really a breaking story in Australia right now. I do wonder if they are going to try to tie this to, you know, like any of the previous cases. Now, that being said, I mean, there's all these other clues that, I mean, I don't, maybe we don't need to bombard everybody with all the other evidence. But actually, what I'm kind of interested in this point in talking about with you is just looking at, like, what would you think? There's a couple questions I have around, like, like, why would he do this? And then, do the clues show evidence that, let's say, if he did it or someone else did it, are they trying to distract away from, like, are they trying to make it look like poachers did it and the motive is really something else? Or was the motive poaching for whoever did it, and this is just the kind of stuff poachers leave behind and they were just going to rub? It seems strange to me, because to me it sounds like that would be a poacher asking for problems in their life.
Yeah. So wait, what are you saying? Are you saying that
Yeah, so like because that's when people found the scene. I mean, the scene is really important, because the scene is really like it's a strange thing. Like the vehicle was only kind of, they made like a half. I wonder if the person ran off in a hurry, and I wonder if, like, especially if their vehicle left in a hurry, because you assume that it would take a vehicle to reach where they were. So maybe that's why there was a lot of evidence. There was some amount of forensic evidence, and like that they could track down tire tracks and get an approximate sense of, like, was the person towing a vehicle, like a trailer? Was it more than one set of tires? Like, tires just by themselves, amazingly quick in terms of clues to help track down, let's say, a specific vehicle. There's just all these things you can use to triangulate on somebody. Clearly, it sounds like they had their eye on him early, and they were worried that either he was going to run off or maybe be institutionalized or find some way to kind of slide out from under this or evade them. So they actually, I believe they actually seized him. Like, they followed him and they seized him in some kind of, like, big raid out when he was out camping. Yeah. The things, I mean, it's wild, right? It's an amazing story. By the way, I have to give a shout out to Australia for having so many positive I guess forward progress on cold cases or mysteries, and, like, just, I mean, for us in recent weeks. But it seems like they've been able to make progress on things that maybe not everyone else is seeing progress on their different mysterious cases, right?
Exactly. Speaking of that William Tyrrell case, we're still kind of keeping our tabs on that, checking if anything is happening. Yeah.
So what do you? I guess, sorry to interrupt you, just so I can ask you the question. I guess my question is to you: do you think this guy got caught up allegedly? Right. This is all just crazy theories, just opinions. No one's. Everyone's got to have their day in court, et cetera. Evidence. Bodies still need to be found. There's still evidence needs to be collected for this. Let's say someone like this did that. Did what he's accused of. Is this some kind of, like, the most dangerous prey kind of thing, where a human decides he's going to hunt other humans? Or is this, you think, the result of some kind of misunderstanding, or some kind of, like, two aggro older guys butting heads about, well, don't you drive by my campsite so fast, god damn it, like something where someone got mad. Sorry for the bad language, guys, but yes, something where someone gets mad, that maybe he's terrassing around by himself and drunk and shooting up deer. This guy comes storming out, "Why are you making all this noise? I'm trying to make you quiet." And then all of a sudden this guy's, like, just burning their freaking camp down and killing them and dragging them off into the woods to bury them.
I mean,
what's going on?
Yeah, well, when we listened to the news article, they said that he left his home after a fight with his current wife. Okay, so didn't that play a part? Like, didn't that whole like, he had a fight, he was already on edge, he drove to camp, and then some people were camping, and he was like, these are easy targets, put two in their domes,
So up there drinking, by himself now, right? Didn't bring the family in his angry little tantrum out in the woods, tanking up on beer, taking wild shots at deer. His two oldsters are in the way. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna show that I never did this before. Yeah, it really makes you wonder. I don't know. This is just me talking a little wild, but yeah, it's I really have to wonder, like the police seem very certain, and they seem certain that there's a crime scene of two dead people somewhere. Um, so it's really
Yeah.
interesting to follow, like, where's the story going to go?
Yeah.
And I would love to see if anyone sees like any articles. I mean, I should follow my own advice and make a Google alert for this one. I would really like to see what this guy's biography is, because he's becoming more intriguing. And it's not that someone should become intriguing because they killed somebody, because that doesn't make them an interesting person. It just makes them maybe a horrible human being, depending on what happened. But I would like to know, how did he end up here? Like, it seemed like his life was on the you know was on the was he was driving between the lines, and he was doing well in life, and was kind of on the edge of, he was like, what, he was in the just about to hit the last quarter of his life, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Like he was 55, and
Yeah.
I think this is gonna be just another Australian case that we're gonna keep tabs on. You know what I mean? Because we're still keeping tabs on William Tyrrell. I want to keep
Right.
tabs on the Greg Lynn situation, if he will be, released, or what's gonna happen here. Maybe some new details as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't think he's going to get out. I think they're really worried. I think this is like a genuine concern. I think this got more highlighted after the Mandalay Bay thing, where the guy shot up the concert. But of course we've seen this in plenty of other cases. It's just maybe people are talking to each other more about constellations of behavior to look like. But I think the big worry is always that somebody who's a narcissist with psychopathic tendencies, and who might be at the end of their line, that they might do something especially egregious if they haven't done it already, and that they might even go even worse, as I think we've seen with some other news events all over the media, where because someone wasn't stopped, they ended up doing a lot of damage and deaths. So I think it seems like in this case, I'm not getting into any other politics about stuff in Australia, but it seems like in this case the police have been very prudent.
yeah, no doubt. And I think we're gonna keep tabs on this one. And is this, do you think, a good time to switch to the case that I've been taking a closer look this week?
I think so.
Yeah, all right. So what I've been taking a closer look this week, guys, is the case of DeOrr Kunz. Okay, DeOrr Kunz was a 2-year-old who disappeared on a camping and fishing trip in 2015 under very suspicious circumstances. And I would like to talk about this case even more in depth next week, but this case has been suggested by one of our commenters on our YouTube channel, and it's very intriguing. The case has a very spicy touch, where now we believe that the people that DeOrr was going on the fishing and camping trip in 2015, they know what happened to DeOrr. Okay, and I think most of us now believe that this disappearance of DeOrr was actually a cover-up. I definitely want to break this down next week even more. But this is more of a foreshadowing of what's to come next week. So DeOrr Kunz, he was 2 years of age when he disappeared. He disappeared on July 10th, 2015. So it's been more than 6 years since he has been missing. Okay. DeOrr disappeared while visiting Timber Creek Campground. Now, this is an American case, okay? This is not in Australia. So on the map, we're going all the way down to America. We're going to Idaho, the state of Idaho. Timber Creek Campground is a campground located 2 hours away from Idaho Falls. Now, Idaho Falls is a city. Let me just get maybe the map here. Idaho Falls is a city where, DeOrr and his parents resided at. So, this was actually very strange because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the family, which consisted of the 2-year-old DeOrr Kunz, his mother, 26-year-old Jessica Mitchell, and DeOrr's father, Vernal Kunz, who was also 26. So they all of a sudden take this 2-hour drive from Idaho Falls to Timber Creek campground, and they also get DeOrr's great-grandfather, who's 76 years of age, Robert Walton, Bob Walton, or Robert Walton, I don't even know his name. He has since passed away. He died in 2019. He was all messed up on the trip. He had like those little things, like tubes in his nostrils for air.
like a oxygen tank. So just running stuff in. Oh my gosh, which means he probably had inhibited lung function or something.
Yeah, this guy right here. We can see it on the map. So they took this guy on the trip for some reason, as well as this guy who was Isaac Rainwand. And apparently, this guy, Isaac Rainwand, is 36 as it unfolds. And apparently, he's a good friend of the great-grandfather, who is 76. Okay, so that's a 40-year age difference to be good friends. I mean, maybe that's normal. But then later on, Robert was like, no, he's not my friend. And just in general, this case is very kooky. Going through some pictures, this is Jessica Mitchell, the mother of DeOrr. This is Vernal Kunz, the father of DeOrr. And going back to the whole disappearance, right, I just want to quickly read out some more of the details that I have here. As I've said, let me just quickly see. Yeah, I think I want to jump to the timeline of events. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit shaky here with the notes. The timeline.
It's that kind of weak, right? Plus, I remember saying, this is probably worth repeating just because we've said it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We've been experimenting a lot with show format, but both of us also, just like probably a lot of other folks, are so busy around the holidays that we've really tried to keep it flexible. So, I mean, the fact that if people knew what you were up to all week with work and the kind of hours you put in for you to be able to do this show, they'd really be amazed.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This week definitely was busy here, but no, I definitely have enough notes here. They're just kind of scrambled here. So I have the timeline of this case. So it's apparently this was the first weird point for me, because some sources stated that the group of 5, so DeOrr, his parents, his great-grandfather, and the friend of the great-grandfather, they all go on this fishing camping trip on July 9th, and I think that's the correct timeline, because even Dr. Grindy said it was on July 9th. However, some sources stated that it happened on July 10th, but I think they got their facts incorrect. So from what I've gathered, the group of 5 drove from Idaho Falls to Timber Creek campground, right? So this was supposed to be some sort of a fishing and camping trip. They arrived at the camping site at around 9:30 p.m. in the evening, and I don't really have any details, and I will hopefully find some more next week on what they actually did on their first day as they entered the Timber Creek campground. But we do have events from the following day, which was Friday, July 10th. The 5 people, initially I think they did like some camping activities, right? And apparently somewhere in the morning, I think around 10 or 11-ish a.m., DeOrr and his parents left the campground to go to a convenience store, which was already kind of suspicious, because if you're going on a fishing and camping trip, If it's only for a few days or something like that, you probably already pack all of the gear that you really need to have beforehand. So them going to the department store was kind of interesting. And another interesting fact is that when they went to the department store, no one in the department store really remembers seeing DeOrr at that point, you know what I mean? But the parents insist that DeOrr was with them in the store. So this is where things get a little bit shaky right now. They go back allegedly to the campsite, and now the group of 5 is once again, all 5 of them are at the campsite. And I do have the campsite footage. I quickly want to find the footage of the campsite. Just so that people would have a better gauge, because this is a very remote place, and this is what I'm actually talking about. This is the campsite. It's a remote place in a remote area in Idaho. Dude, what do you think about this? This looks like a very hard place to get you know what I mean? And you would drag your 76-year-old great-grandfather into this, who has like tubes in his nostrils? I don't know, seems like kind
with oxygen. Yeah, it's crazy. And then with a toddler, it sounds like a disaster. I mean, this is like the kind of place I would like, even in Scouts, it would be a rugged trip. And then the fact that they ran off to go to some convenience store right away, to me indicates, well, maybe they weren't really down for the camping so much after all. Like, camping sounds good when it's a word and you tell everybody you're going to do it. And then when you get there and it's like dirt, dirt everywhere, dirt up in the air, dirt in your mouth, dirt in the food, like everything's dirty. You're sleeping on the ground. It's like the one funny part is and maybe fairly, somebody else may say like, well, Glenn, you don't know how to have fun at camping, and it's kind of true, because like all my camping experience was in the first from ages like maybe 7 or 8 to like 22. I don't think I've been camping since then. So it's almost my whole life camping was spent not when I could like drink and have a good time, I guess, at a camp out, other than just doing Boy Scout stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know I'm wandering a little bit, but it just seemed a little weird to me. It's like you said, a very odd collection of people that are together, and then there's the guy that's like half the other dude's age, and maybe that would be okay if like they were good friends, because like maybe the older guy was like a military veteran, and the younger guy wanted to find out more about like the guy's service and about that war and was interested in history. Or I had a friend for a while who was like a good 20 years older than me, because we were both interested in like a certain hobby, and then you and I, of course, are about 20 years apart.
Yeah.
So I guess it could happen, but like that's not the same as like 30 something years.
40 something. That's like literally
40 something.
40.
Yeah, that's right. It's like almost 2 generations.
And then later on,
people.
Later on, the great grandfather was like, "No, he's not my friend. I don't trust him."
Yeah, and that's like bewildering. So wait, I just want to make sure, because I every time I heard that, I was always wondering like, wait, so it was the grandfather, the guy that was supposed to be the friend, and not like the dad of DeOrr, not DeOrr's dad, saying that. You're saying it was actually the grandfather that was like, that was, I was confused about it. It was too many names going on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
so
the great grandfather. Okay, so the case was built that the parents, their little kid DeOrr, DeOrr's great grandfather, who was the grandfather of DeOrr's mother, and then the great grandfather's friend, who's 40 years younger than him and has like mental handicaps. You know what I mean? So these are the group of 5, like the most random group of people you'll ever find camping.
And then the attention to that, I mean, I guess we're going to get into it a little bit more when we cover this episode in the future. It's interesting about sort of strange deficits and maybe childcare that maybe happened on this, or like the whole story of what happened, is already going to be weird. But yeah, I mean, this is already leading up to like just very strange, because you mentioned looks extremely rugged.
Yeah.
Once again, it doesn't look like a super safe place for someone who's on the edge, like the grandfather on the edge of his life right there, right? I mean, what happens if he has a medical emergency?
Yeah, he has died since then. He died in 2019. So at that point, he only had like 4 years left to him, and he was really creepy when, on some interview, they asked him if, what he thought actually happened to DeOrr, and I'll just really get into it. But apparently, he was like giggling or something like that. This guy, so he just didn't seem like he was in control of his like mental capacities fully at that point. So definitely an interesting person to bring on a wild, rugged terrain trip.
I mean, I can't imagine why they tried to cram that on him to go camping, unless there was, for some reason, he loved camping or something. And I could see that. Like, I've been dragged on trips where there was some relative that maybe wasn't going to get to do this thing anymore, so they would kind of go on a kind of a really inconvenient trip that maybe didn't always work out. So that's true. I guess the other thing I gotta wonder is, do you think that his mental state had anything to do with him, how he talked about that other friend?
Yeah, or I have no idea, because both of their mental states were not 100% like that friend. Okay, let me just like quickly go through the timeline here so that the audience members wouldn't get confused. We're like straying away in like so many directions here, you know what I mean? So I just really want to play a 911 call that DeOrr's mother, Jessica, phoned. Like I have the recording and I really want to quickly play it. So before I play it, I want to give a general description of what happened in this case. And I know, like, for some of our audience members that don't really like us straying away from the course of the show, like really apologizing right now, because we kind of did it once more. But really quickly, to just go back to the events of the 10th of July when DeOrr disappeared. So as I've said, at 11 a.m., they kind of go to the convenience store, and no one really remembers seeing DeOrr there, which is kind of interesting in the first place, right? But then they come back, and I'm not really sure at around what hour exactly, but I think it was like something around like 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. DeOrr goes missing, and now this is a very important. I'll try my best in explaining the circumstances of how little DeOrr went missing. So if we would jump to the pictures, right? These are DeOrr's parents. The mother is Jessica, and this is his father, Vernal. So they're both 26 as this is happening, and apparently they took little DeOrr to the convenience store and they came back. Now at some point in the day after returning to the campsite from the convenience store, they decided to walk towards the creek. So from what I'm understanding, and everyone who's watching this on the YouTube channel, you could better understand this if you would just take a peek. From what I'm understanding, but this could be incorrect, I'll try to correct these mistakes by next week. I think the group was camping in this location right here, and the two parents, Jessica and Vernal, they wanted to go and look at the creek a little bit. And the parents' story is such that it was them together with little DeOrr, and they were walking towards the creek. But at some point during the walk, they asked if you want to go with us to the creek, or do you want to go back to your great-grandfather, Bob? And DeOrr apparently started walking back to Bob, to the great-grandfather, and apparently the parents were like, Bob, take a look over DeOrr, we're going to the creek. And they walked to the creek. Now, once they approached the creek, they saw some fishes in that water, and they were like, oh, DeOrr would like to see this. So they went back to get DeOrr, and as they went back to the campsite to talk with the great-grandfather of DeOrr, this guy right here, they asked him, have you seen DeOrr? Where is he? And then apparently this dude, like all shocked, was looking at them, and he said, I thought they were with you. Okay, so this is pretty strange. So this is and this is how the commotion happened, and apparently this is how DeOrr went missing. Now, where is Isaac Rhinewind in all of this? Well, he had a different story. From what I've gathered, his story was such that him, DeOrr, and DeOrr's parents were all walking towards the creek, but it was him and Jessica walking, like leading the way, walking a little bit farther from DeOrr and his father Vernal, and apparently, so what he believed, I don't know what he saw exactly, but apparently that's his story, that he then turned around, he walked back, or like Jessica and him, I think, turned around, walked back to meet up with Vernal, and Vernal at that point, I think, told them that DeOrr already went back to his grandfather. So essentially, this guy has a different story. His story is such that I don't think he really saw DeOrr walking with the parents towards the creek, but he only apparently heard DeOrr in the back as he was leading the way with Jessica. But some people suspect that actually what may have happened there is that DeOrr was already, like, maybe already killed or something like that and hidden, and Vernal was actually just speaking out loud with no one, making it seem like he was with DeOrr, and then maybe he said out loud, okay, just go to your great-grandfather or something like that. So this guy, Isaac Rhinewind, who was the weirdest addition to the group, the 36-year-old friend of a dying old man, he basically didn't really know what he saw, essentially. So, dude, was it at least somewhat understandable what I was trying to say here?
I think so. Let me just make it clear, because I know I've still been confused by the story, and admittedly, I've been multitasking a lot this week, as have you. So they were all walking over to some place, and the parents were in front, and they sent the kid back to be with this other guy, and then he said that the kid went back to be with the grandfather. Is that right? No, I got it wrong. Okay. So it was no. Yeah.
How it went down. Okay, so what the parents said. Okay, so this is what the parents said. The parents said that they were walking with DeOrr towards this creek, I believe, right? You can see this on the map.
Yeah.
And somewhere midway, they were like, do you want to go with us to the creek? Or would you like to go back to your great-grandfather? And apparently, they let the 2-year-old just walk back to the great-grandfather, and they shouted to the great-grandfather, Bob, look over DeOrr while we go to the creek. Then they go to the creek, they see some fishes, and they're like, oh, we should show these fishes to DeOrr. So they go back to the great-grandfather, and they're like, yo, where's DeOrr? We want to show him the fishes. And the great-grandfather is like all startled and like, I thought they were with you. I thought he was with you. And then he's gone. He's nowhere to be seen. So yeah,
That's weird. That's a weird story.
It's a very weird story, dude. That's a very weird story. And where's Isaac Rhinewind in all of this? You know what I mean? Where is this guy in all of this? And you know the crazy part is, okay, so I know this was already pretty weird, but I want to play one news clip for our audience members that will make this even more weird. It's an interview of Isaac, because Isaac is like the missing link. He's like the person who wasn't even supposed to be there. I'm not really sure what he's even doing on this trip, but he did have an interview. I want everyone to listen to what he said on the interview. It's pretty damning, and I'm gonna play it right now for everyone who's listening to us. So just want to make sure I find the correct clip. Oh yeah, this is the clip. Let's listen in what Isaac had to say to media. And by the way, Isaac has some sort of mental impairment, so that's why he may sound off a little bit.
You're the one that can say whether or not baby DeOrr was even at that campground.
As far as I know, to my knowledge, and he was there.
there the whole time.
The whole time that we were up there and was camping with us, yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Let me ask that again. So you're the only, well, not the only one. So Isaac, you were one of 4 people at the campground. So the question of if baby DeOrr was even at that campground, you can say yes or no. So was baby DeOrr there at the campground?
Yes, he was.
You were saying that to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, he was there, and so and that's all I know, that he was up there with us. And
So you've talked with investigators, you've talked with, who all have you talked to? Have you taken lie detector tests about all this stuff?
I took a lie detector test. I'm not commenting if it was positive or negative. And I've talked to the Sheriff's Department in DeOrr County and the FBI and People Magazine, and I think there was a few others I don't remember though. It's been a long time, so.
Does it feel like it's been 4 years for you? Does it, you know what I mean? Like, does it feel longer, shorter? Do you just wish this would all kind of go away?
It's been kind of longer, yeah. And you know, closure, I think closure would be, for the parents and everybody, would be nice. But
what do you think happened to baby DeOrr?
I have no idea. Maybe it was an accident or something. I don't know.
Do you think he's still alive?
I don't have a comment on that.
Do you think Jessica had anything to do with his disappearance?
Ooh, I'm not going to comment on that either.
Why not?
I just feel like I just want to stay neutral in this situation, you know. Don't want to point fingers. I don't think it's nice or it's right.
Do you think Vernal DeOrr had anything to do with baby DeOrr's disappearance?
I have no idea.
And what about Bob?
Bob? I don't know if he'd do. All I know is DeOrr was up there with us. We were camping. Next thing you know, he was gone. And there was 4 adults up there. And for some reason, none of us know what went down. Somebody does, but I can't point fingers at somebody when I don't know, you know?
Do you think he was abducted by a person? Do you think he was kidnapped?
He could have been. I don't know. There's lots of things that could have happened. He could have been attacked by a cheetah or a cougar, maybe a bear. But you'd think you'd hear something, though, but he was just there, and then he wasn't.
So you don't have any theories, any hunches, any gut feelings about what happened to him or who's responsible?
I don't.
What maybe do you hope happens out of all this eventually?
Well, I'm hoping everybody gets closure. I'm hoping DeOrr Kunz is found and this is just all wrapped up and him put to rest. Would be nice.
Do you ever feel pressure, like from Trina just now, to say that he was at the campground?
No. There was no pressure.
So you're being, like, honest? You don't feel like you should say a certain thing?
Right, I'm being totally honest.
I have to ask, did you do something to DeOrr?
No.
What was your interaction with him up there? I mean, what do you remember about that whole...
Just bits and pieces, vaguely. It's been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what do you remember, though? What do you recall?
Ooh, I really I really don't want to talk about that, because if it's something I didn't exactly say 4 years ago, it could be turned around, and I don't want that, so no comment.
Does it make you mad when I ask you, did you have something to do with DeOrr? Like,
no.
Do you have a lot of people give you dirty looks in town? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you just tired of it all?
I don't think I have really people give me dirty looks anymore or anything. I just kind of...
Anybody accusing you of stuff?
I haven't had really anybody harass me really or anything. If they have on Facebook, I don't know. I don't read Facebook. I just scroll on the pictures, and when I get done with that, I'm done.
Okay. Anything else that you want to mention? Because I gave Jessica and Vernal all time to talk today, even Trina. Anything you want people to know?
No, I think that'll be all. I think that's good.
Like, no one ever said, okay, you need to say this or don't say that, or...
No, they haven't. Been to Hawaii. Not a whole lot of stuff, you know. That's about it. That's about the biggest major thing we've done in the last year.
Yeah. Did you guys go to Hawaii for your honeymoon?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Kaiki Beach is where we got
Kaiki
married.
Beach.
And when did you guys get married?
Okay, so now they're talking about some marriage stuff, but yeah. Just to break it down, this guy, like the weirdest thing about it, this situation is that this guy was like, to the best of my knowledge, I think, to the best of my knowledge, DeOrr was on the camping trip with us. Like, why would he say to the best of my knowledge?
Yeah, it's like one of those little slips that often gets identified as someone trying not to lie to you by messing. You know what I mean? They think they have a better chance of not lying to you by or sorry, by tricking you, by not lying to you, by not telling you something that's actually not true. But their whole gesture doing that obviously undermined the whole effort.
Yeah, exactly. And the way he talked, I kind of got the suspicion that he definitely knew more. The way he looked, the way he just seemed, I just got this as personally, just think that he may know more about this case than he's actually saying. And, you know, the interesting part for me was when the reporter asked, do you have any hunch of what may have happened to young DeOrr? Because let's remember, like the interviewer asked him all kinds of theories, what he thought about them. Like, for instance, do you think Jessica had something to do with it? And he said, I'd like to not comment on that. Do you think the father, Vernal, had something to do with it? He said, I don't want to comment. The interviewer asked if the great granddad had something to do with DeOrr's disappearance, and he was like, I don't know. But then when the reporter asked, do you have a hunch? And he was like, nope, I have no hunch. And I think he definitely has a hunch. I mean, come on, like, you would have a hunch, you know? And I think the hunch is pretty damning here. We'll get into the details more next week. This is like a foreshadowing type of episode for this case in particular. One of the interesting things was that the parents later on, Vernal's parents, Jessica and Vernal, DeOrr's parents, Jessica and Vernal, I'm sorry, they kind of gave conflicting statements. The timelines didn't really match. Soon after DeOrr's disappearance, they split up and remarried within the same year. Dr. Grandy found this very interesting because if your kid disappears and you have no idea what happened to him and you would worry about your child missing, you would not think of romance within the same year. That's probably not something you would do, but they remarried, I think, on the same year. So what do you think of that, man? Like, isn't that a little suspicious?
Yeah, I think so. And also, even just looking at them, I get a different vibe off of them. I get a feeling of sad resignment, resignation. Maybe is the word I'm looking for. You know what I mean? They look resigned that something bad has already happened, or that what has happened has happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like the look of hope of like we're gonna find our child and someone kidnapped them, and like they're saying someone kidnapped them, but they don't really seem to believe they're gonna find their child out there. Nor do they even seem to be angrily looking for who did it.
Yeah. And like a massive search was called within like an hour of DeOrr's disappearance, and they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find
with like a dog and everything, right? I mean, a cadaver dog, and remember the whole thing I'm always harping about, body of water, maybe that's what happened to the person, for every other case. But I mean, that's literally what they went to right away. They're like, oh my gosh, little kids in water, what happens.
Yeah, and they drained the water, and the police stated that they're completely certain that DeOrr is not in the creek, and they, I think, checked another creek a half mile away. I didn't really get the time to pinpoint that exact creek. Definitely want to look into it, but doesn't really seem like DeOrr could have wandered off, because a 2-mile radius of the campsite was searched by multiple hundreds of people, and if he wandered off and just died somewhere, he would have been found. If an animal would have attacked him, he would have been heard by the parents, or traces of blood or his clothing would have been located. Okay, so there are interesting theories here. The interesting fact that I want to mention as well is that the family, I think, hired 2 private investigators, and both of those private investigators quit this case because they believed that the family was hiding something. They did not believe that the family members were innocent. Also, the mother had described DeOrr's wardrobe at the time of his disappearance. She said that he was wearing some sort of a camouflage jacket. One of the private investigators later on in this case found that exact camouflage jacket in their home. I think maybe like in Idaho Falls or something like that. So there's a lot of misconceptions here. Also, the family... Dude, I have another question. Dude, the family called police only 1 hour after DeOrr went missing. Essentially, they said that they called 20 minutes after, but upon further investigation, they determined that it was 1 hour after he disappeared. Isn't that maybe a little too long to call cops?
Especially with a road nearby and just the whole thing with the any kind of little kid in the wilderness out, where there's the body of water and everything else, etc. Things are not childproof. It seems strange to me that any parents would ever let a toddler out of their view.
Yeah, especially a 2-year-old toddler who was apparently, the parents said, smaller than other 2-year-olds, which is not a good sign as well. And then the parents were like, we think he was kidnapped, but this is in the middle of nowhere. Okay, you have to drive on a really crazy road. It's not paved. It's like really difficult terrain to even get to the my car wouldn't even make it there. You know what I mean? You have to have a proper SUV at least to get to this place. So that's kind of interesting. And who would go and kidnap a little kid? How would a kidnap even work here? There was only a time frame of apparently 5 minutes when DeOrr was unaccounted for, because the parents they said there was a time frame of 5 minutes when DeOrr was in between the great grandfather and them walking to the creek. So how would someone sneak up, snatch him up in 5 minutes and then walk away? No one else was seen on the site.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, and it's interesting too because the parents, I mean, they hired a bunch of private investigators. They did a bunch of other stuff where, they had tried to make some effort to prove their innocence, right? And that was interesting that it had actually gotten litigious, where they'd actually ended up, I think, taking some of these people to court.
Yeah, exactly. And they lost courts, court cases, etc. But they're not tried. So I think more of this is gonna, we're gonna talk about more about this case next week. I really don't want to stop here. I definitely want to research more. This week was definitely very hectic, and I couldn't really do the proper research that I really wanted to do. And next week, I think we should definitely come back, have a in-depth analysis of this case, because this is one of the more interesting cases that I've ever looked at least this year. Personally, I'm very strongly drawn to the DeOrr Kunz disappearance. Definitely want to look into it again. And I don't know, unless you have something else that you want to foreshadow about this case for next week. I kind of think, it was a pretty wild, but also a pretty cool, I hope, introduction into one of the, at least definitely one of the topics that we want to return to next week,
Yeah, I agree. Nope, nothing additional here. Just really fun talking about both these cases and exploring what's going on.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna sign out for this week. I definitely want to see how the recording went. So as I've said, some technical changes on our end. We're experimenting not only with the format, but with like the technical side of things as well. So I really hope everyone enjoyed this week's show. I'm very happy to bring you we're very happy to bring you an episode. We've been very busy with everything we were doing lately, but I think things will now stabilize and we will bring you really good in-depth analysis once more. But for this week, I think we're going to be signing out, and hopefully, guys, you enjoyed the show. Hopefully, it was like a more casual throwback type of an episode. I'm really hoping everyone is enjoying the holiday season, right? December, and stay tuned for more stuff. Always looking forward to your comments. And for now, just stay safe and peace out.